Good morning, family. So good to be with you today. And boy, do I have a word for you. I have a word for you today. You know, we are in a new series, one word that can change your life. And I want you to know there is one word that can absolutely change your life. What you've got to do is to discover that word and begin to get that word deep down within your being, your literal being. And then you can begin to manifest that word in the world around you and in your actions and every step that you take. We're going to look at a passage of scripture today found in John chapter 5, verses 1 through 8. You might be familiar with this text. It is the text about the man at the pool of Bethsaida. The man at the pool. And I'm going to read this to you, and then we're going to move right into this word today. Chapter 5. After there was a festival of the Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now in Jerusalem by the sheep gate, there's a pool, called in Hebrew Bethsaida, which has 5 porticos or porches. In these lay many invalids, blind, lame, and paralyzed. One man was there who had been ill for 38 years. 38 years, long time, y'all. That's a long time. When Jesus saw him lying there and knew that he had been there a long time, he said to him, "Do you want to be made well?" The sick man answered, "Sir, I have no one to put me into the pool when the water is stirred up, and while I am making my way, someone else steps down ahead of me." And Jesus said to him, "Stand up. Take your mat and walk." At once the man was made well, and he took up his mat and began to walk. And now that day was the Sabbath. The one word I want you to get deep in your being, deep in your spirit today is willingness. You know, Pastor Juanita has been helping us with this map of consciousness. And right when the map of consciousness begins to move into the positive realm, and that map is on the screen right now, you'll see willingness is really one of the first steps you have to have literally in your mind before you can begin to move to the really good stuff at the top of that map. And willingness, if we looked at a definition of willingness, we would see willingness is really the state of being prepared or ready to do something, all right? Look at the person sitting next to you in the living room there at the table. Come on, look at them and say, "I'm willing." All right, that's good. You know, in this morning, I want to just really look at this opportunity that we have before us. You know, I believe many dreams don't get accomplished, many missions don't get fulfilled because we don't really have the willingness. Remember, the energy begins to move positive when we start at willingness. But if we don't have willingness, if you look at the chart, you know, the energy is going in the opposite direction. Look at this text, we can see an opportunity for a person who has been in a predicament for 38 long years. How long have you been in your predicament? I don't know. I'm not going to make any assumptions. You know, I'm not looking through your TV screen right now, but I want you to know there are many people who for a long time have been in a predicament because they haven't been consciously willing to make the first step. I want to talk about this man for a moment, though, because this is really a story that resonates with too many of us. The story picks up with Jesus leaving a feast. You know, Jesus literally left the feast to go down to where people were hurting. The Bible calls it the sheep gate. And we know that when Jesus left the feast, the festival, and went down to the sheep gate, the Bible tells us around through the sheep gate and around a pool sat many people, blind, invalid, lame, couldn't walk, couldn't move. And the Bible goes on to tell us that Jesus obviously looked around in that place. And as he looked around in that place, I can't imagine what he saw. He saw many people whose loved ones had really just laid them there in that position, hoping that they could catch that miracle. Here we are. Jesus is sitting and looking and contemplating and looking around. And as we capture this scene in our minds, there are people laying on porches around this pool at Bethsaida. House of mercy translates. So here, mercy literally is standing in the house of mercy, looking around at these 5 porches with sick people, lame people, blind people, laying there, hoping for their opportunity to be healed. You know, we think about these 5 porches, and some scholars in the metaphysical realm look at those as porches as our 5 senses. And how often do our 5 senses, you know, the key senses that we operate in, how often do those senses keep us from moving into the opportunities in front of us? Sense of sight. How often do we see something and think that we cannot, in a million years, possess what we see? We hear something. We can't believe that word that we are hearing is for us. And here they were, this multitude of people lying around on these 5 porches around a pool. Whenever I see water in Scripture, I immediately reflect on what's truth in this moment. And if you can imagine with me, just for a moment, here the multitude were lying around the truth, but only took turns moving into that truth. Can you imagine? Everybody there was waiting on the water to be stirred, because at the moment the water was stirred, whoever got in first was healed. You know, we look at this text and we realize that you know, that there was some equality or some equity situations that were really challenging in that place, because there were some blind folk who couldn't see the water stirring, who couldn't make their move, and there were some lame folk who couldn't necessarily pick themselves up and move themselves towards the pool. And we think about this moment and we see that here we were around this pool, and everyone was waiting for the same thing. They were waiting for their moment to be healed. You know, there are some scholars who say these pools during this particular period in history were really pools that were dedicated to the healing god Asclepius, I think the son of Zeus. And when we think about these healing pools all over this region, they weren't necessarily, these weren't temple pools necessarily, but these were pools where people had believed enough to lie there until their opportunity for the miracle occurred. We think about Asclepius, the god Asclepius, and we realize that in this moment, something is really going on. He was actually the son of Apollo and the grandson of Zeus. And now here we are. Jesus is looking around, and I can imagine Jesus is moving to the point where he's saying, okay, who in this room needs healing the most? The most dire case. Isn't that how faith operates often? Don't we often find ourselves the one who needs the most will also ultimately have to believe the most. We think about this moment, we realize that in this moment, mercy, standing in the house of mercy, was getting ready to create a disruption in this place. Look at the definition of disruption, and we realize that it's a disturbance that interrupts an event, an activity, or a process. You know, even when we think about what's happening in the world around us, what happened several Wednesdays ago was a disruption that interrupted the process of democracy. When we think about the last 4 years, we realize the last 4 years' presidency was a disruption that interrupted the balance of power in this country. But then there are other disruptions that we see have taken place that have caused cataclysmic change in and around. COVID-19 was a disruption. Whoever imagined a year later we would still be wondering when we can go outdoors and play again? Who imagined when we would not have to wear a mask in order to engage our friends and family? Those are disruptions. Then there are economic disruptions. I don't know if you were watching the news this week, but GameStop, the stock like tripled, quadrupled in value almost overnight, disrupting the stock market. And then it crashed at the same pace. And along the way, we realize these disruptions are moments that interrupt an event, an activity, or a process. And we think about these moments, we realize that what happened to the taxi industry when ride sharing became a reality was a disruption. We realize that what happened to the lodging industry when home sharing and room sharing became an industry. We realize that something happened to the entertainment industry when music sharing became a reality. And I wonder, where is the disruption for people of faith? This morning we see a man sitting by the pool who had been in that predicament. We don't know how long he'd been by the pool, but he had been in that predicament for 38 years. Can you imagine if his life was an industry? That's a long time to be doing anything. 38 years. And now Jesus is standing in front of him, asking him, what or do you want to be made well? You know, I'm thinking about this moment. I'm thinking about this word that we have as our word that can change our lives, and that word is what? It's willingness. When we think about willingness, we realize that there is something to being ready to experience change in our lives. You know, in the midst of that change, we realize that we have to make a choice, and in the process of being willing, we are choosing to be willing. Willingness is a choice. And I like this theory, William Glasser's choice theory. And it says the only person whose behavior we can control is our what? Our own. And all we can give another person is information. We can't give them anything else. For instance, as much as Jesus might have wanted to pick this man up, he knew this man ultimately had to make the choice to get himself into that pool. That almost all behavior, this is another point, is chosen, and that we are driven by our makeup, our hamartia, the way we see the world, to ultimately move towards those basic needs, which are survival, love, belonging, power, freedom, and of course, fun. When I think about love and belonging, I realize that in the midst of this moment, here this man was there by the pool. Now he probably was belonging in that moment because he was surrounded by his comrades who were also either lame, blind, sick, paralyzed. And in this moment, Jesus asked him a question. He said, do you want to be made well? Do you want to be made well? I'm asking you this morning, do you want to be made well? What is it keeping you from moving towards your own healing? What is it? What fear has kept you from speaking some truth to whatever's had you that long? What's stopping you from making the choice? You know, here we are. Jesus walks up to the guy and he says, do you want to be made well? And the guy says, what? Excuses. He gave an excuse. Now, mercy standing in front of him. He's in the house of mercy. And instead of using an affirmation, we know he was willing in some way, but willingness has to be combined with an action at some point. But here we are. He's making the moment. In this moment, do you want to be made well? And what does he say? Well, when the water is stirred, people get in front of me. And there's no one there to help me get in. And I'm going to tell y'all, if I had been there longer than a week, I would have found a way to get into that pool. If it was moving, if that water was moving, I'm getting in that water, y'all, all right? I'm getting in that water. I'm going to put an elbow or something, but I'm getting in that water, all right? I'm a scoot. Matter of fact, I don't know if this camera can get down, but here we go right here. I'm gonna get in that water, because I'm telling you, if it takes me a month and a half, if I scoot an inch every day, before I know it, I'm going to be there where I can get in that water. But the key is I have to be willing first, and then I have to put some action with that willingness. Yes. I can be willing all day long, but if I'm not willing to make a step in the process, then I don't know. Who am I fooling? Who am I tricking? Probably myself. But someone, you show me someone who is making things happen, and I'll show you someone who has not only made the choice, but has also began to take some steps. You show me someone who has laughed at the devil and has continued moving, and I will show you somebody who has run through all of the you can'ts and all of the you never wills and all of the you are not good enough and all of the you're not smart enough and all of the you don't have enough. You show me somebody who has ever been denied, but has continued to make that decision every day to get up and go in spite of, knowing that your change is going to come one day. And I'll show you somebody who is believing beyond what they can see right now. I love that quote, that faith is taking the steps even if you can't see the staircase. I love that. I can visualize that. How many times have I taken the steps and not been able to see the staircase? I take them every day. Every day I leave the house. No, more specifically, every day I wake up. I'm taking the steps even though I can't see the staircase. Every morning I pop my eyes open and I think about what I'm going to do in this particular day. I'm making the choice to be willing to move in spite of not having everything that I necessarily need. But Jesus told that man to rise. And guess what? Willingness connected with action. And he did. I want to read something to you. I think this is a beautiful reminder of how making the choice, being willing to make the choice, can make the biggest difference. And it reads, in the infinity of life where I am, all is perfect, whole, and complete. And yet life is ever changing. There is no beginning and no end, only a constant cycling and recycling of substance and experiences. Life is never stuck or static or stale, for each moment is ever new and fresh. I am one with the very power that created me, and this power has given me the power to create my own circumstances. I rejoice in the knowledge that I have the power of my own mind to use in any way I choose. Every moment of life is a new beginning point. As we move from the old, this moment is a new point of beginning for me right here and right now. All is well in my world, and all is well in your world. And willingness is the moment when you make the decision to take that step towards what you know is your promise. But in order to do that, there's another word I got to give you today. And I want you to get this word deep down in your spirit. And that word is yes. Come on, say it out loud. Yes. Say it a little louder. Wake up your neighbors. Yes. You need to get a yes in your being, a yes in your spirit. Feel a yes in your body. To the point where every time you start thinking, well, maybe I won't be. Yes! And every time somebody starts trying to discourage you, you just scare them and just start shouting, yes! I guarantee you, you get that yes down in your being far enough. And not only will you survive it, but you'll thrive in the process. One word that can change your life was willingness. But I think we're going to wrap this up with that one word being what? Yeah!